And hello again, part 4 of our exploration starts now. This is the exploration of what's new in version 9.0 of Project Dogwaffle Howler edition. A lot of it also will apply to the artist edition that's about to come out. I invite you to check it out at squirreldome.com. And let's see what's new in version 9. We've seen already quite a bunch of features. Let's go into this list again and see if we can continue where we left last time. I think we were short of close to the end of this list here. Much faster pasting into an image. We did not cover that yet. And so this one is something that was a little bit slow in earlier versions. And basically, if you have an image in, let's say, in the clipboard, right? In fact, for instance, this image right there, or whatever you have here, plus the user interface, everything, right? If you have that image already in the clipboard, and in fact, I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to print screen, and I have it now in the clipboard. So once you do that, let's say you want to paste it into the existing image placeholder here. You could do that in a couple of ways. If you hit Control V, it will give you a few choices, and one of them was to replace the image altogether with the new incoming one that's currently shown here as a thumbnail. But there's another option here, which was to paste it into the existing image placeholder. Alright, so that's the one that used to be a little bit on the slow side, and it's now much faster. So you click it, boom, it's already done. And so that way you can work with other applications where you perhaps you have an image in Airfront View or something that's some other place, and you want to capture it into the clipboard and paste it right in here, and it's a snap. Alright, so that's a feature that's been sped up a lot. And let's see the next one, fixed bug in the timeline merge with swap. I guess merged with the blue channel, duplicated into the green channel. Okay, well, and that will be difficult to demonstrate now since it doesn't do it anymore. Alright, added Oilify, Kuwahara and SNN filters to the timeline. Alright, so let's have a look at that. What we need first is something in the timeline, which means we need an animation. So let's start from scratch and create an image of, I don't know, square, maybe VGA dimensions, there you go. And then turn this into an animation. Actually, before we turn this, no, let's make an animation out of that. And let's see, right here, create an animation. Let's say we want 55 frames, and there we go. Now what we'll do is we'll load some sort of an animation into this, and why not do something like an animated, or render the sky, there you go, render the sky, and make that an animated sky. So what I'll do is I'll click on animate right there, and indicate in which at which speed the movement occurs as these clouds are changing position and shape across their fractal space. So what I can do is keep them steady in the X horizontal direction. The Y, I'll have them come closer to me, and I'll make them do that pretty quickly, give them 3 or 4. And then I'll also set the speed to in the Z axis, and that's basically going to be the depth across space, and that's going to make it look like these clouds are changing shape. Otherwise they'll just be appearing to move across. So if I give it something like 1 or 2 and okay that, the clouds will actually be appearing to change shape, not just position. Which looks a little bit more interesting. Alright, anyway, we have an animation almost done here. There we go. And let's go animate that. So you see this. And the thing we want to do now, you know what, maybe I needed more frames. So what I'll do is I'll quickly go to Filter, Animated, and use the Motion Prediction module to create a sequence, maybe twice as many. Let's give it tweens of 2. And this is just a preview. And that works fine. So we can go and uncheck the dry run and actually make it so. So we have about 107 frames now. Keep in mind when you use the motion prediction module, Some of it is not usable, namely along the border there's a thin area where there might be some side effects which you might see while you animate it. If there's a lot of noise in the image itself, it may not be noticeable. And then the other thing, the last frame is really at the very beginning, so we need to kill that frame. There you go. So now we have this animation going a little bit slower. And what I'm trying to do is now demonstrate, what was that feature? There it is, Oilify, Kuwahara/SNN filters in the timeline. All right, so we have in the timeline right here under the timeline filter here, we have an animated, it's probably under artistic category. Let's see, artistic, there it is. Oilify, two new entries for Oilify styles, one with the Kuwahara algorithm, another one SNN. And it's a bit difficult to see what's happening here in this one. Maybe it's easier to tell if you first of all, if you increase the amount of it, of course, but then also if you have something that's a more line drawing, a style of like cartoonish lines, or perfectly lined up grids or something like that, then you would see some sort of a oilify effect to that. Using it on something that's already a little bit on the on the oily look is of course not going to exemplify it too well. All right. Well, anyway, that's where that new feature is. It's to create sort of an oil painting look, and to make it look like, well, it's perhaps more blotchy in appearance, and whatever that means. So the next one here, there are some new color sets for the GUI. So if you look at the GUI on the window, there's a layout, and there's a number of interface colors, and there's a few more of those now. Right, so the layout, the colors of the window and the decorations, those you can choose different color styles. So right now I have the flat look. We can go to high contrast. We can go to a variety of other styles, and whatever fits your needs. There's a dark, not my favorite. Let's go duck egg. Right, this one kind of a light bluish, except for this background blue, it's a little bit too intense. Anyway, so there's a few more color styles or themes that you can choose. There's a vine, very grayish here, and I don't know, system colors, the bunt, not much different there. And let's do one more, hero. Alright, so that's the hero color. Let's stay with this one. Let's see what's the next feature. Making an image seamless can now be applied. Oh, that's one of my favorites. Making an image seamless can now be applied to an animation, provided the Keep Original Size button is checked. Alright, so in the past you could make an image seamless if it was just a single image. In fact, let's do that. Let's go and kill this current animation and basically free it. And we are left with just, let's see, let's freeze this. We are left with just one image, right? So if you wanted to make this image seamless, and by the way, there are many reasons to do that, many different scenarios, many different cases where it would be nice to have a seamless texture, and one of them is actually the puppy ray. If you do a render in puppy ray and you want it to be seamless, so you can make it look like it's tiling the terrain endlessly, that's a good way to do it. So we've always had the very first place where you were able to do a make seamless was in the brush, the custom brush, which means in the past you would have to go pick this image, and then once it's in the custom brush you could go and make it seamless. And you would see here what the appearance would be as you adjust the overlapping parts, and you can keep the original size and okay that. So now the custom brush is seamless, and if you paint with it or if you stamp it down, well, it's a bit difficult to see there when the opacity is not full. But anyway, so that's what that was. It's the seamless texture that you can have in a custom brush. Likewise, we added the ability to do that with the image that's in right here in the main image buffer. So what I'm going to do now is show you that right here, make seamless from the image menu. We've had that for a while, I think since version 7 or 8, somewhere around there. Make seamless. And so very similar interface to what we just saw earlier with the brush in the case of the custom brush, where you can adjust this, and you can also keep the size original and say use the buffer or no, use the brush. So you could actually choose the same interface here to say whether you want to make the seamless action on the image that's in a custom brush right here, or on the image that's in the main image buffer. All right, so that's that, and then of course we place it right in there. Well, now what if you have an animation that's that needs to turn seamless? All right, so for instance, let's say let's do an animation like this. Let's go create. Let's see, what shall we do? Let's create an animation with this background. Oops, that's the wrong option there. Animation create. That's not it either. All right, there. Animation create. And what I'll do is I'll give it 55 frames, and I'm going to apply, let's do some snowfall on that. Let's first make it a little bit darker so the snow will be easier to see, so higher contrast. So which means initially I'm going to go to adjust color add, and actually I'm going to remove the color, so it's going to be a little bit darker, significantly darker in fact, and apply that. So we now have a short animation. Of course there's nothing moving yet, this was just started from a single frame, and what I'm going to do next is the animation I'm adding to that. So let's go to the timeline animated category and find the snowfall, and let's just use the default as is and render that. Oh, not render it, but there, apply that. Okay, so now that's added to the snowfall. Alright, so that snowfall, as you see right here, as you scrub through that, that is not seamless. The background image itself may have been, but the snowflakes that appear here at the top, you know, it's not seamless. And so what you can do though is you can make that now seamless. You can go something like this here. Make seamless. Oh yeah, same option. You basically use the same option, but once you've done this, it will also ask you, do you want to apply this not just to this one frame, but to the entire animation? And this will work as long as you have this option checked here, the keep original size. All right, so keep that, and you now have a seamless texture. And there is one other thing that you might do occasionally, which is to make it looping. All right, so making it looping is a sort of seamless in time, as opposed to from left to right borders or top to bottom. Seamless is a spatial continuity as you tile them side by side, and looping is, or loopable is, what you do here when you right click on the timeline and you say you want to make it loopable. That basically means, and you can do that by the way also here on the animation, on the frames, same menu, this menu here that you see right there from animation frames, that frames animation or frames menu is the one you see here when you right click on the timeline. So what you see here is make loopable, and what the idea is with that is that some of the frames at the beginning are going to fade out or fade in, as the last ones at the very end of the animation are being rolled back to the beginning and fading out there. You're basically deciding here how many frames you want to sacrifice, how many frames you want to take away that are going to be cut away at the end and blended in on the entry at the beginning, or blended out rather, while the beginning sequence is blended in. Alright, so that's making it loopable, and so now we have an animation that is seamless and loopable, so seamless in time and seamless in space. Which, you know, if you apply this texture to a 3D object that's moving in space or somewhere as a billboard polygon, it's going to be pretty awesome, because that in itself is going to tile forever and loop forever, and so you can play that in a looping animation and do a lot of really fun stuff with it. I mean, for instance, if you were to use this in PuppyRay, you would get a nice elevation map, and let's have a look at that right here. So you can see that there are some spokes, those little spikes that we see here coming up, those are of course from the snowfall. And if you decide you want to see each frame, use each frame as an animation source, then these are going to move around as you render that. Let's see that actually. Let's go reduce the brightness of the light source a little bit. Just move it back here, and go do. I'm going to do a preview quality, not a very high-end quality. And let's see, what else do we need? Well, just render it like that. Okay. Oh, I did not set any keyframes. That's right. If I want to render that across the animation, I need to first set the keyframes. So I'm going to go to the beginning frame here and set it like so. And then I'm going to go back here to the animation scrub bar, go to the last frame, and maybe I'm going to move a little bit, move the sun a little bit, and then also move the position, the camera a little bit, move the sun even further back, a little bit up or down, and keyframe that. Let's not waste too much time here. So now I'm going to render that, and so we'll see this animation changing, not just because the camera is changing position, but also because the animation itself is happening on that elevation map. These you can see it here in the preview too, by the way. The snowflakes, as the snowflakes are moving, they cause those elevated spikes to move, and that's basically the idea. You know, the bright spots, like those white snowflakes, they represent a higher elevation, and they cause these spokes coming up here. I still don't know whether to call them spokes or spikes. Peaks, let's call them peaks. So anyway, the clouds are here in the front, and the snowfall are going to the other side. So that's basically it. You know, the making it loopable, making that's not new, but making it what did we call it? Seamless. That's something that you can do now. And so now you can see that the animation is looking like this, but it is seamless. You don't see any place where the snowflakes suddenly cut off or disappear or appear from nowhere. It's just a continuous seamless movement, because the tile, the texture, the terrain was turned into a seamless animation. And so that's that for this feature. Making an animation seamless can now be applied to an animation. So making an image seamless. There you go. All right, so what's next? The general cosmetic and functional updates. Well, those I'm not going to be able to demonstrate really. It's too generalized. Use of .NET Framework is reduced significantly. .NET Framework 4 is not supported by Wine on Linux, thus we are further minimizing our use of it. The idea is that we want to make it possible to use Dogwaffle on the Linux with the Wine HQ emulation libraries and Wine Helper. But so not everything is working in that sense, but much of it already can be used under Linux. And that brings us to the next category. There's a whole group of filters that have been internalized, and we'll learn in the next section perhaps what that means and what that does. This is going to be a good opportunity to just become familiar with some of the many filters. This is only what, about 20 or 30 of them. In fact, there's like over at least 140 filters. And we can easily see them in many different places, such as the filter menu, of course, mostly for still images, but many of them also applying to animated sequences. So for instance, this one here, if I go to the let's see, photographic filter there, soft contrast improvement. Wait, let me move this a little bit to the side. There you go. Control Shift, remember, Control Shift and then left button to move it around, the right button to zoom in and out. All right, let's go back to 100%. Actually, no, keep it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go to Filter, Photographic Filter, Soft Contrast Improvements. And you notice here now it changes the softness and makes a little bit of a contrast improvement there. You can adjust that not just on the current image, but actually on the entire animation. So many times the filters will have, between the OK and the cancel, will have a third option in between called animate. And what that does is it applies the filter to each frame of the animation. That's one place where you have some animation for the filters. The other place, of course, is that there's a whole category of filters that are by their nature animated and work with video or work with animation sequences. For instance, to stabilize a video, to do a motion stabilization, or to interpolate with motion prediction. Neutrons, we've seen that in the other earlier video. And then there's also a whole collection of filters in the timeline. And in the timeline, these are not just animated, but they are keyframeable. So you can set keyframes for the amount of for the parameters that these filters support. There are a couple of other places where you'll see filters. For instance, under the brush, you'll see animated brushes. And if you have an animated brush, you can send it to the animated brush timeline, which is in essence very similar to the regular timeline, but instead of the regular timeline works on the image sequence you have here, whereas the animated brush timeline, this one here, will work on the frames or the images that are in your current brush, the custom brush. So how does that work? Well, let's take a look. For instance, if you take the custom brush selection tool and you pick a portion from here to here, let's go like so. Actually, no, you know what? Let's go and create a selection mask, even something like this, and give it a little bit of a let's see, easier to see if we have the selection and overlay. There you go. And I'm now going to make it a Gaussian blur on that selection, so we have a nice soft transition. And then I'm going to pick this up as a custom brush. So I'll do that using this tool here, the custom brush pickup tool, and I'll give it enough margin. I know it goes in and blurs to the inside. Well, it does that also to the outside by about the same distance. So I need to go probably about this far away from the circle to be safe and make sure I have the entire area selected. And then I'm going to go and do that like so. But before I let go, before I pick this up, I'm going to use the Alt key. Press and hold the Alt key, and then while the Alt key is still pressed down, let go of the mouse cursor. And then that way this actually picks up the entire animation from the current frame to the end and picks this up into the custom brush. So I can now go and store that and manage it. And what we'll see is that we have a custom brush. Wait, did I do it? Okay, there it is. Oh no, wait, I do have another custom brush. That one's actually a plugin, and that's confusing it because I still have another render going on in another instance of Dogwaffle right now. Okay, so that's something I cannot do at the same time. All right, so I won't save it. See, there it is. That's the other one. I'm still rendering on in the background at the same time. So let's go back to this. I have picked it up as a custom brush. I'm not really sure if I'll be able to store it, but I should be able to go and paint with it. Yep, there it is. And what I'd like to do really is do a couple of things. Allow the transformation. We've seen that there is now a shortcut to do that, and allow it to rotate, in fact, for transformation. So now it's rotating it as I'm painting around. And why did I get to that? Let's see one more time. Oh yeah, I just wanted to show the many different filters we have and the many different things you can do with regard to running some of these filters. And the custom brush animation can be considered also as aided by a filter. There is a brush, animated brush, there it is, and you can go to animated brush timeline. So what that does is it takes that timeline, that animated brush that I had just created, and puts that into the timeline editor. In the timeline editor, it's going to let you see the frames and do all sorts of filters, apply that, but it's not going to be applying it to the current image here or the movie, the main video. It's going to apply it to the frames that are in the animation. All right, excuse me, the frames that are in the brush. All right, so I'm not going to wait for that. I'm not sure if it's actually going to happen, since I do have 2 sessions of Dogwaffle running here at the same time and competing for who owns the custom brush system. When it's, I think that one is still running as a. It seems like it's still running in part for storage of those custom brushes. Seems like it's still running through the .NET connection as a plugin. Alright, so I think that concludes the main part. The filters we will cover one by one in another sequence. There are some GPU'd filters, meaning those that are now using the GPU and therefore can potentially be significantly faster. Bug fixes, a few to list here. Linux and Mac Wine. Yeah, Mac I haven't seen it yet. So, but that's probably coming sooner or later, you know. And then there's also some developments for API. Now, to conclude, one thing I wanted to mention, we didn't even have this listed here in the list, right? I mean, there's a list of new features here. We've seen a couple of those really dramatic new features, such as Puppy Ray. But how about this one, the 3D stickers? Well, that is new with version 9, and if you click on that, you'll see that with version 9.0, you are going to receive a whole batch of images, and you see them here. So these are images from a collection that's even bigger that we will gradually release, and you can actually download the first batch if you didn't get those. With your download with instructions for the program, you will see also unzip keys to download these, and then unzip them, and then you can use these images for your artwork. You can, for instance, load them into a custom brush, and we've done some videos already on how to do that and how to start using these for your own new artwork. Really fun brushes by Michel Agulot, and I would highly recommend you look at what else he has produced. There is actually a sneak preview here of the next collection that's coming. There's a bunch of, let's see, dinosaurs and crayons. A bunch of these, cars, a bunch of these are already in the animated brush system. If you did not see that, let's go back to painting, and you see the browse media, and there is a stickers collection. There it is. All right, so you have trees, for instance, and hold on, let me stick it down here, pun intended, and go to pirates. So there's some pirate stuff. Let me make the steps a little bit smaller so we can see them faster. There you go. Let's see what else. There's some stuffies, sunshine. Yeah, we've seen those. Stuffies, little stuffed animals. Looks very felty, very fabricy. Fun stuff, really great high quality images. There are some animals, there's some vegetables, safari animals. We've seen the monkey a few times and the elephants. Veggies, more veggies here. Tropical fun. Lots of sea life and plant life. There's some princess, pirates, R, right? Ocean life, under the sea, and knights and dragons. We've seen some of these already. Fun food. Yeah, who knew that food could be fun? More fruit. These are happy fruit. Forest animals. Oh, I love that snail. Look at that. Where's that snail? You can stamp them down individually too. Sometimes they come in 3s and 2s. Look at all these there. But these are intentionally put together as custom brushes, and you know, you might want to dissect them into individual parts, and that's what we will help you do by making them available for download. Every once in a while, maybe once a month, there will be a new batch, and you'll be able to keep adding those to your collection. So hope this is going to be really fun for you to use as well. And by all means, if you want to learn more about the artist who did that, create those in 3D with a tool that you can see at DAZ. It's the Hexagon modeler. Hexagon is a 3D modeler, and his name is Michel Agulot. He's a French designer. You can see buy vinyl stickers, or you can see them here on the left. And there's some sneak previews here of the entire catalog. I think there's about 600 or 700 of those at this point. A lot of different designs. And not all of these are coming, but a bunch of these are coming to Dog Waffle in the coming months. So that's that. Thanks again for watching, and we'll probably have a few more talking about the individual filters and some other things that are worth mentioning now that version 9 is out. 9.0, that's PD Howler.